Hi, I'm Julie Satchell and I'm the Head of Research at the Maritime Archaeology Trust. Today I'm going to be showcasing some of the ways that our interactive digital resources, viewers and visualisations can be accessed and interrogated for a range of different research. So whether you have a general interest in a topic or a theme, or if you want to undertake more targeted queries, the power of these digital resources is really beginning to revolutionise how it's possible to access and analyse this data. And I'm going to give you just a few examples of those today. With 2020 being a year when we've all spent more time at our computers than ever, it has provided opportunities to explore the many and varied digital resources that are increasingly available online. Here we see just some of the interactives that are available through our website. These pages have been particularly popular during lockdown, and I encourage you to try and take a look at them at your leisure. These resources have been produced associated with various projects over the last 15 years. They show increasing complexity and sophistication as the technology, digital capability and software has developed. Some of the interactives that I'll feature are circled in red. They include examples that focus on single sites, where we've been making a wide range of archived material available, through to viewers, which bring together large multi-site collections, often across multiple countries. Our goal always being to try and make sites and data as accessible and available as possible for everyone in formats that are engaging and enjoyable. Taking a look at two major projects on backlog archives from designated protected wreck sites, we start with our first large-scale digitisation project, which was on the site of the Invincible. It had at its core the archive produced during the initial excavations undertaken in the 1980s. It brought together material held by John Bingaman and John Broomhead from the original excavation team, with other available resources and associated collection. This two-decked 74-gun ship started life as a French warship in 1744. It was captured and recommissioned into the English Navy, where it was the flagship of three admirals, took part in two wars against the French, and served as far afield as the West Indies and Nova Scotia. Invincible ended its career in 1758 when it grounded in the Solent and was wrecked. The archive digitisation project was delivered in 2008 and 2009. It involved an extensive scanning programme which included over 1,100 dive logs, many drawn plans, photographs, slides, research notes and project correspondence. Further archive enhancement included working with the Chatham Dockyard Trust to photograph their full artefact collection, including material that wasn't on display. Here we see the online viewer, which makes all this archive available. It uses MapGuide, which is an open source WebGIS interface, and it allows a visualized version of the database to be explored. The site's introduced with a site plan, which forms the main graphic element, and over this the ship's plans are initially shown, so the relationship of the seabed remains to the original form of the ship can be viewed. By zooming into specific areas, you can see the types of artefacts excavated, and you can click to access more detailed information on these or associated dive logs. Layers can be turned on and off using the toolbar on the left to allow certain types of archive or artefact to be seen. This was an early example of an approach to making a legacy archive, which was in private ownership, publicly available. And the work on this project helped us develop approaches that were to be applied to the audit and assessment of another protected wreck site, that of the Stirling Castle. The Stirling Castle was a third-rate ship, which was one of 30 ships of the line built as part of Samuel Pepys' shipbuilding programme. It was launched in 1679 and would be wrecked in the Great Storm of 1703 on the Goodwin Sands off Kent. When it was discovered in 1979, the remains of this ship were in a remarkable state of preservation. A programme of investigation was undertaken with the support of the then Trust for Thanet Archaeology, and that resulted in a large collection of recovered artefacts. Subsequent work on the site by a number of local groups and organisations, as well as by the Archaeological Diving Unit, had left a large and dispersed archive which consisted of paper, image, artefact, drawn, video and digital material, which was held by museums, trusts, contractors, heritage agencies and private individuals. For over 10 years, the Trust has been working with groups and specialists to deliver a programme of archive and assessment and analysis that I'm pleased to say has been published earlier this year as Volume 4 in our monograph series. This volume provides in-depth information on the archaeological work on the site, the history of the ship and the collection. However, today I'm going to highlight the digital archiving element of this project. The work undertaken included producing a database of known site archive, which summarised the content and where it was held. The project did not include a large scanning or digitisation element, but it did involve photographing the artefacts from the site, which are held in a range of different locations. A resulting output is a digital archive that has been deposited with the Archaeology data service, and that includes a copy of the project database and photographs of most of the recovered artefacts. Having this digital archive available online means that anyone interested in late 17th and early 18th century artefacts from shipwrecks can instantly access this information. It's helping direct comparison with other shipwrecks and integration with wider research. An example of comparative collections comes from the London shipwreck, lost in the Thames in 1665. Specialist analysis of brass navigational dividers from the site has revealed their composition is exactly the same as some of the examples from the Stirling Castle. Comparison of artefacts between these two securely dated shipwrecks is also feeding into much wider research programmes on the development of metal alloys over time, demonstrating the value of wreck collections far beyond maritime archaeology. Increasing availability of shipwreck artefact databases is making the task of comparative research between international sites much easier. This, combined with programmes to digitise backlog archives, is making maritime archaeological data much more accessible and is stimulating new research. I'm now going to move from a focus on large archives from individual wreck sites to look at a number of resources that make data available on multiple sites in ever more complex ways. The Archaeological Atlas of the Two Seas project ran between 2009 and 2012. We worked with partners in France and Belgium to bring together information about archaeological sites that lie beneath the Channel. This included wreck and foreshore sites, which spanned from the prehistoric through to modern periods. To do this required the development of new approaches to be able to view comparative data sets from different countries. The result was our first Geoportal. It brought together complex data sets from multiple sources into a single interface. The design of the Geoportal required a range of issues to be explored related to the comparison and integration of different national heritage databases, the types of data they recorded, fields required, language and terminology. The output is the Geoportal, which is available in 3 languages. It allows you to search on individual sites by clicking the dots, or you can take a text search approach and search by site name, time periods or keywords. Just one example shown here is the Caduceus in the Eastern Solent, where basic information is revealed through the initial text pop-up window, with more detailed information including photographs of recoveries from the site also linked. Experience with the A2S Geoportal was drawn on when developing approaches to another complex set of data for the Munch project. The full title of the project is Archaeology, Art and Coastal Heritage, Tools to Support Coastal Management and Climate Change Planning across the Channel Regional Sea. As this suggests, the data involved in the project included paleoenvironmental material, archaeology, historic sites and documents, artworks, historic photographs and postcards, maps and charts. This project involved working with partners in France, Belgium and the Netherlands, with each country having various data sources and collections available for inclusion in analysis. The Geoportal, which we see here, draws on a project database. It provides a public interface with the data to help understand historic changes to the coastline. It enables anyone to see a spatial view of coastal change using the data sources that were ranked to determine their potential in relation to how they could demonstrate these changes. This is reflected in the size and colour of the related map icons. So we have some examples here. They show the detail of the study area in the Western Solent and across the western end of the Isle of Wight. Our evidence is indicated with blue squares. Clicking on the example here brings up a detailed engraving with information available on its date, the artist and its scoring. The circles indicate archaeological or paleoenvironmental sites. And here we see the HMS Pomone, which wrecked on the Needles in 1811. And you can see how the Geoportal can link out to other online resources to provide more detail. This Geoportal really demonstrated the potential of integrating multiple data sites and types into a single online interface, and the experience of delivering it was vital to creating what is our most extensive online resource so far, the Forgotten Wrecks Interactive. The interactive viewer was a key output from our Forgotten Wrecks of the First World War project that investigated the vital yet little known struggle that took place on a daily basis off the south coast of Britain. The viewer brings together a wide range of information and resources related to over 1,100 wrecks and sites from the First World War. The many shipwrecks investigated reflect the diversity and magnitude of vessels lost in the conflict. Among them are ocean liners, merchant vessels and fishing trawlers, seaplane lighters, airships, submarines, troop and hospital ships. There are examples of naval and commercial ships powered by steam and sail. The viewer is a good example of how, although the formal project has been completed, the online resource continues to be added to and kept live. We have volunteers who became particularly engaged with the project and are following up research on individual vessels or themes. Divers are also continuing to provide photographs of sites on the seabed, which are added to the dataset and made available. We're now going to look at a few ways that you can interrogate and use the viewer. Initially, we're going to look at the map search zoom function, where you can go with increasing detail into different areas of the map. The wreck names become available as you get closer in. This time we're going to go to the John Mitchell, a steam drifter lost here off the southwest coast of the Isle of Wight. From the initial pop-up box, you can see in the right-hand panel there's a range of information available. Statistics and details of the site, more detailed text on the seabed remains, information about how the vessel was lost, and here we have photographs of the seabed site, and you can click through the gallery here to see what's available, and there's also some historic images of this vessel available as well. The next icon shows you artifacts that have been recovered from the site, and again it's the similar way of clicking through on the gallery feature and finding out more information about them. This site, along with about 60 others, have detailed archaeological reports available for them. Again, all linked in through the viewer. This pops up into a new window so you can look at the full report in more detail. We also have videos available for this site. For the John Mitchell, there are multiple videos available that you can see here. You can view them through the pane and watch them with the viewer active, or you can have them in full screen mode and watch them as a larger option. And finally, this site also has a 3D model available. This does take slightly longer to load within the window, and again you can choose to see that as it's shown here or open that up into a full screen window. I hope you can see that how much this is an innovative way of making a really wide range of information and archive from sites available via a single interface. Now we'll take a look at some of the various search options that make the viewer such a powerful tool for research. From the left-hand panel here, it's possible to undertake a wide range of different searches. This time looking at the vessel type that you can search on, and the choice here to look at all the destroyers that we have in the data set. Again, you can start looking at the patterning of these losses within the wider South Coast area. It's then possible to clear all your search filters and choose to search on another option. Here we're looking at choosing all the Norwegian flagged vessels in the data set. A rather large number of flagged vessels from Norway, around 10% of the data set. They did at the time of the First World War have the fourth largest commercial fleet in the world, which is reflected obviously in these losses. Looking at sites by the types of resources that are available within the viewer. Here we've chosen the option to see sites with photographs of seabed remains attached to them, and we're having a look at an example off the southeast coast of the Isle of Wight, here going into a cluster of commercial trading wrecks that were lost in this area, and this one is the Camberwell. I mentioned that we've searched for seabed images, and you can see here back to the gallery feature where we can click through and have a look at those that are available. There's options to mix those sliders for different resources, so you can look at those with multiple types available at the same time as well. Moving in and out of the data window here allows you to see the full distribution of sites, or to look in more detail at one area. We're now going into looking at cause of loss and those sites that were torpedoed, really widespread across the area, showing the impact particularly that the submarines had on losses during the war. The use at time of loss option, here we're looking at minesweepers. Again, you can begin to look at patterning within that data set. A cluster here around the east coast, an area that was obviously heavily mined, very active during the war, and inevitably that's been reflected in the vessels lost here. Clearing our search options again, we're going to have a look at the options for the time slider feature. So here, being able to see sites that were lost in 1915. Relatively small number within the large data set. You can then move this along to see other years. 1917, a year of very large losses, reflecting the period of unrestricted submarine warfare. So hopefully you can see how you can start asking lots of different questions of the data and what this is contained in there. Finally, we're going to have a look at how we can use the viewer to use multiple search options to look at different queries of the data. So here we're going to choose all the steamships in the data. We're also going to choose those that have geophysical or acoustic images available for them. We want to look at cargo vessels, so this will be steam cargo vessels, so we're choosing the commercial option. And we want to look at all of those that were lost in 1915. This brings up a relatively small number of sites, many over towards the east coast. We're going to look at some examples. I've chosen ones that are actually of a similar size. This one, the Seven Seas, and here's one of the amazing high-resolution geophysical survey images available. You're able to click on these to open a larger window, and you can see this is a really very well preserved site. Not far away from that on the seabed, the site of the western coast, as I mentioned. So this was lost at a similar time, 1915, and was a similar sized vessel, but the seabed remains not so intact as the one very close by. So you can start looking at questions about how these sites are degrading over time, how the metal is beginning to break down, and also questions about how these might have been impacted post-loss that's impacted these remains. A comparative site here, again, much more buried, different environment, so you can look at how the environment of the wrecks might have impacted the remains over time. So this is really just one of a myriad of possible research questions that can be posed of the data set, and we're really looking forward to seeing how people begin to use this in the future. Looking to the future, we're excited for the possibilities that digital datasets, viewers and interactives can bring to understanding and promoting maritime archaeological sites. The ability to put a single site in its wider context, regionally, nationally and internationally, will become increasingly more rapid. The potential for displaying results of complex searches with interconnected datasets is likely to revolutionise the types of research possible. Exploring these connections will tell new stories and also help re-examine old ones. Digital interactives are enabling maritime archaeology to be experienced in new ways. Increasing public involvement from creation of resources through to dissemination provides a seemingly endless possibilities for heritage to be enjoyed by all. We are certainly looking forward to exploring that journey with you in the future.